listening to Chris Talks Cars on Cartoon Channel. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Chris Talks Cars. My name is Chris Goodin, and joining me once again, the people's champion, Brandon Cole.
Hey guys, I'm back.
And today, Brandon and I text a couple times a week, and our latest topic was replacement, or is there a replacement for displacement, aka small engine with a turbo versus a large naturally aspirated engine. And
Right.
So I guess my argument is maximum potential. If you take any engine.
Well, hold on a second. Let's dig into this first.
Okay.
So first off, if you look back, if you grew up around the car industry and engine building, performance type stuff, and you were brought into it with your grandfather or your dad or something like that, and you're maybe 30 plus, 40 plus years old or something like that, you've definitely heard the saying way back when that there is no replacement for displacement. And so, back in the 60s and 70s, I think that really reigned true. I mean, it was really, all those big blocks back in the day, nothing could touch them.
Well, there's one formula for horsepower back then: cubic inches plus fuel.
Yeah, pretty much, basically.
That's all there was to do. There's forced induction, but that was in F1. That was nowhere near your local hot rod shop.
Were around back then, but I don't think the technology wasn't nearly as good as it was today, when it's refined or anything. But basically, I think that really reigned true, and there wasn't really any good arguments for it up until maybe around the 90s, maybe late 80s, when things started getting shaken up, and so.
The first one to probably shake it up like that would be the Grand National, right?
Yeah, that's actually the exact reason I said late 80s. So yeah, that little 3-point-something liter, whatever it was, in the Grand National, with a little turbo on it, and actually
fastest production car.
Yeah, in 1987, it was the fastest production car made. It was actually I guess in a straight line beat Lamborghinis and Ferraris of its time.
I believe it.
Which is crazy to think about, but it was quite the vehicle at the time. But yeah, so I think that was probably one of the first times, basically notable anyways, first thing that came to mind where it's maybe displacement isn't exactly going to get you there if you're just going for maximum power. And that's really what the American way is, just tons of horsepower, tons of torque.
Yep. Straight line, point and shoot.
So I would say one of the first things that I would argue, though, on the other side of displacement would be RPM and just superior head flow, which is actually something I took from a Ford article written. Is just Ford's always, they've always had their V8s, but they almost always are smaller than, Chevrolets and Mopar stuff with their old 4.6s and their Mustangs. And now they're still 5.0s and everybody else is running 6.2, 6.4s. So they're significantly smaller, but what they have is, one, they're always running more RPM.
They're usually always Dodge, some dual overhead action.
Yeah. Always lots of RPM, dual overhead cam, and extremely good flowing cylinder heads, which you basically have to have when you're revving higher RPM than everybody else.
Right.
That would probably be my first argument there, that maybe there is something to be had with a lot of technology, a really well-built engine that can produce a lot of power with less cubic inches. You have to have extremely good flowing cylinder heads, everything good flowing, and then just being able to push some extra RPM to achieve what these other guys are achieving at lower RPMs.
I'd say a perfect example of that. Oh yeah. Well, that's another one. I was going to bring up, just cause it's my desktop background, is the Shelby GT350. They're getting 526 naturally aspirated horsepower at 8,500 RPM out of a 5.2 liter V8.
That's a 5.2, right?
Yeah, 5.2.
Yeah. Okay. So how much horsepower was it?
526.
Okay. So that's 100 horsepower per liter, basically.
Right.
Okay. So think about that. So like the Honda S2000 with a 2 liter made 240. So it actually made 120 horsepower per liter at the time,
which is crazy.
The most horsepower per liter on a naturally aspirated production engine. When it came out. And I mean, that included everything like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, anything that was naturally aspirated, which is awesome. But it took 9,000 RPM to do it.
Right.
But either way, I mean, that's pretty cool. 240 horsepower. I mean, that's more than Mustangs were making back in the early 90s. I mean, that's pretty solid with a 2-liter engine. But I mean, then you're only producing 240. Everybody else is producing a lot more. So you're really stretching to get everything out of that engine.
Right.
A lot of tuners proved that there wasn't much left in there unless you went like individual throttle bodies and then just kept revving it up to and past 10,000 RPM,
which is crazy.
Which is crazy. Yeah. So
it's a dirt bike at that point.
Yeah, or a sport bike.
Right. That's what I meant. Yeah.
I mean, that'd probably be like maybe my first argument there. I'm not saying that's going to debunk it by any means, because at the end of the day, you know, it is hard to beat that even with tons of RPM and you know.
Do you consider fuel to be part of the equation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're running like 110 octane or something versus pump gas versus ethanol versus, you know, all that stuff.
That's a valid argument. But what's to say I can't just run that fuel in a big block?
Right. Well, I mean, that's my point though. Are you consider like, are we doing fuel for fuel? Like E85 is 10 times more effective in a boosted application than if you were to put in a naturally aspirated, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Am I explaining that or?
No, I understand. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. You definitely get a lot more out of like E85 or ethanol or stuff like that, higher octane fuels when you are running a boosted application. So sure. Yeah, that can do that. I mean, that would just dive us straight into the next thing. Like power adders, nitrous, turbo, superchargers. You got, if I have a 454 inch big block Chevrolet, and I'm trying to compete with an old a 5.0 Windsor engine from the 90s Ford, that's a huge gap that has to make up. That's about 154 cubic inches that I'm trying to compete with. So there's just no way. I don't think you can spend enough RPM on a well-built 5.0 to compete with a well-built 454. So yeah, if you put a supercharger, turbocharger, something in the mix there, then it can bridge that gap for sure. No doubt about it.
And the LS is the best example of that. You slap a turbo on a 6.2 LS and boost it to the moon. That's actually, I started to watch the latest episode of Engine Masters where Freiberger is attempting to get 1,000 horsepower completely NA out of a BBC. No nitrous, just a giant carburetor. Yeah. Well, yeah, but I wish I would have watched it because I would probably have a little bit more to add to the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I've ever seen that, but I have seen like some 800 horsepower deals, and I'm sure with some really top notch engine builders, Brule over there doing his tuning and throwing ridiculous amounts of money at top notch.
Well, and that's the other thing. As I heard it at a drag race once, it made me laugh. It was like, speed costs money. How fast do you want to spend? And that's all it is with any of this stuff. Like it costs $100,000 to squeeze a couple horsepower out of a naturally aspirated air cooled Porsche engine, because you're splitting hairs that have been split so many times.
Right.
But I mean, it can be done. It just costs money.
Sure. So here's where I was wanting to go with this, though. So if you have, say, whatever engine, rather it be an old 4G63 out of an Evo, or the S2000 engines, small Chevrolet engines, small Ford V8s, whatever you want to do that you consider to be a smaller engine on the south side of this big block or big cubic inch gap. What can you do to that engine to make it outperform, say, a big block Chevrolet, which I consider kind of the king of the hill? I mean, I even over LSs, over Mopar or big blocks.
Naturally aspirated for sure.
Well, let me keep going with it, though, because I don't think there really is anything that is going to beat it. Yes, naturally aspirated. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be really hard to beat it. But say you do the turbo on your LS. Okay, we'll just use something common. Your 6.0, 6.2s, whatever you want to throw in the mix there. Even the we can't use the 7.0 because that would kind of go into the big inch category.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say pretty much anything south of a 427. I would consider
I was going to say south of 400 cubic inches.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's what I consider big cubic inch, anything over 400. That would mean, so you have your turbo or whatever on your LS type engine under 400 cubic inches. What's to say I can't just put a turbocharger on my 540 inch big block?
Well, I agree. I think once you start doing power adders, there is no replacement for displacement.
Exactly.
Like everything taking it to its max, everything boosted, everything nitrous, everything ethanol, everything. Yeah. No, there's no way to beat it. Now, the GTR people have a pretty good argument because they're getting 2,000 plus horsepower out of that. Granted, not small V6, but of what, 4 liters, the big bored out, maxed out ones.
Yeah, I'm not really sure on those.
Yeah, but
that
still right. Smaller than any like super popular V8, and they're getting
those old 2JZs were 3 liters, and they're just amazing.
Same thing. So I mean, but then you hear those numbers, you're like, holy crap. And then you hear, some crazy top fuel dragster makes 14,000 horsepower.
Yeah. And those are generally based off of big block Mopar engines.
Okay.
So we're just going
BBMs.
Back to the big inch displacement. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I don't think there's any argument to be made. Like, power to weight, maybe, but I mean, who knows, man? Once you're getting to the outer edges of performance, like,
right? I
don't know.
Yeah. So the reason I kind of was thinking about that the other day, I always grew up, with American Muscle and all that stuff. But my first car was a Mitsubishi Eclipse, and so I kind of got into that tuner scene. Of course, I've had Evos and S2000s as well, and so I really did get to appreciate smaller engines on lighter weight vehicles and what they're capable of, and all the great things. So I'm definitely not bashing them in any way. But I'd pull up in my Evo or my S2000 or whatever, and then all the other tuner guys start talking about this, like, how they're whatever they have is better than, these V8s, these bigger engines. And I tried to explain to them, like, yes, man, like, this car, I beat all the Corvettes, I beat all the Camaros with it. It's a very rare occasion I run into something that was faster than what I had, the S2000. But at the end of the day, if you just go get a bore and stroke an LS and slap a turbo on it, there's no way I'm going to stand a chance against it. I'm not going to make half the power he's making. It's just, and I think a lot of people, I think they just get biased in maybe what they're driving and in their culture and all that. But I try to explain to people whenever I do have that conversation, is like, man, what you have do whatever you want. It's going to be awesome. But at the end of the day, when it just comes to making power, it comes down to displacement and how much money you want to spend on top of that. Yeah.
And the LSs have definitely brought big horsepower down into the somewhat working man's range, but that's the common denominator in all power, is how much money do you have to spend? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But like a junkyard truck LS with some aluminum, like high flowing heads and a turbo and maybe some pistons. Like it's probably what, 7 grand to make all that happen.
Yeah, I'm aftermarket. Yeah, well, if you're doing aftermarket cylinder heads and all that, yeah, it can get relatively expensive. But I mean,
7 grand for 800 plus horsepower at that point of reliable horsepower, like
that's pretty cheap.
That's
honestly.
pretty cheap, man. Like it's hard to complain about that. Yeah, it's 7 grand, and 7 grand is 7 grand. If you don't have it, you don't have it. I don't have it, but I can still appreciate that 7 grand is a pretty small price to pay to run tens.
Here's an example. So two engines that I didn't personally build myself. I had an engine shop build for me. One was the S2000. With the F20C engine, about $14,000, and it was a ground up build.
That's crazy.
It cost me about $14,000 to do that. It made 550 horsepower at the wheels. It definitely would have made more, but there's really no point in going more. So let's say it made 600 at the wheels with that setup. The last one I had built for me was a big block Chevrolet engine. It was a 454. I only had it bored out a little
truck,
bit.
Right?
Yeah, I was in the 67 C10. That I already had the engine. It was just an old 90s model Chevy big block. Nothing fancy. Out of a 1-ton Chevy pickup. With those aluminum cylinder heads, upgraded comp cams, camshaft, higher compression pistons, the intake and the carburetor and everything. The whole thing, I'm in this under $3 grand. I mean, this is like swap meet parts, just junk parts thrown together. I never got this officially dynoed, but I guarantee it made every bit of 500 horsepower and had to make over 500 pound-feet of torque as well.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty safe to say.
That's what's roughly 460 cubic inches. So, I'm in this engine, a quarter of what I'm in the other one for. And the horsepower distance isn't that big, but keep in mind that S2000 made 350 pound-feet of torque. That's it.
Yeah, but I mean, then this comes down to application. If you throw the BBC and S2000 lined up against your S2000, your S2000, even with 300 less foot-pounds of torque, is going to spin the tires and just destroy the BBC, I would imagine.
Yeah, it would never hook, but I mean, dollar for power, I mean, is a whole lot more.
Do you think the S2000 would cost that much to build now just because of technology advances, or do you still think you'd be out that much?
I mean, I think if you're doing it yourself, it's probably not that expensive. But I mean, this guy was a very reputable engine builder and specialized on Hondas and all that stuff. So I probably paid a premium for that. But it wasn't just your typical build. It was iron sleeves, forged everything.
Right.
New pistons. I mean, because I basically melted down the first engine.
I remember.
They had that little Garrett turbo on there, and the guys that originally built it, they just, I don't know, that by the time they gave it to me, it was already like smoking out of the valve covers, the valve cover vent areas. Like smoke was coming out of it. My first pull, I didn't even do a good, big pull. I just did like a 5,000 RPM pull. This is a 9,000 RPM engine. It just blew. It melted a piston, and I didn't even get home. I had to get it towed home, and then you remember 6 months later, I finally had my engine back and everything put back together and ready to go. But I mean, I just think it takes a ton of money to make smaller engines or be competitive with bigger stuff. I mean, like I said, I was actually having a conversation with another guy. I told him about the S2000. I said, man, I would have put $14,000 in my Mustang. There's no way your S2000 could have touched it. And I'm like, you're right. You're dead right. There's no arguing it. It weighs more, but he's going to make so much more power with that displacement, even if it's a little 4.6. It's just more displacement equals more power. It takes displacement to make power. I mean, I think there's really no other way around it. Whether you put boost or nitrous or anything into the equation.
Yeah, no, and I mean, then you get into the non-sexy part of it, which is application-based stuff. Like a 1.3 liter turbo is going to work a lot better in my commuter car than a Coyote, you know? So
sure. Nobody cares about commuter cars, though.
That's true. That's true. Bastards. Fuck a ball.
Yeah.
I need to drop a BBC into my Accord. Then I'll be respected.
Are you back in an Accord?
Yeah, for now. My buddy's trying to sell the Ram so I can get rid of that payment. So back in the Honda for now. Probably try and keep it for a little bit just to tool around. I don't want to buy another car till I move to Texas. Yeah. That's when the C5 Z06 comes into play.
Hell yeah.
I've been watching. No, that's 5.7.
No, it's not. C5. You're talking about C. Oh, sorry. You're talking C5. I think it's in C6. Yeah, you're right. My bad.
No, God, I wish well, C6 isn't that. I could find a more beat up C6 and get it for roughly the same price as a mint C5. But yeah, I think I'd rather just buy the older C5.
You like the fancy stuff, all pristine.
I'm spoiled, man. I like to be bougie. I'm already thinking about like, I'll be the first guy with a race car with a full cage and a full stereo. Like I'm already planning to be that guy. I want it all.
Hey, well, I'll be your pit crew, man.
Oh yeah, man. And that's the other thing. I can't wait to get out there to start doing some stuff with you now that you've got your fancy air conditioned garage.
Yeah.
And
we'll see. I'm kind of honestly getting a little bored of the Broncos, so I might have to do something else pretty soon.
We'll be the Z Boys. We have to officially announce the Z Boys on the podcast. The way I ended up set on a C5 Z06 is Brandon wanted us to be the Z Boys, and he would drive an old Z and I would drive a new one. And then
wait. I thought we were piggybacking off of the other guys with their 350Zs and their 300Zs.
Yeah, you were going to get the older one, right? And then I was going to get a newer one.
I thought you were talking about the Z06 though. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And then you, as you tend to do, skipped immediately back to American Muscle.
Yeah.
And I was like, you told me to get the C5 Z06. And I was like, that first off, that's the most slept on value in muscle cars right now. You can get 400 horsepower LS real world drive stick speed for like, if you want to get real dirty, like 15 grand.
Yeah.
You could get one that's like mint for 18 to 20.
Yeah, definitely out of my price range. So I think whatever I do next, I got to really just be set on not wanting to have like a extremely powerful vehicle. I just want to have like something fun that I can drive, because like this was.
Do I need to play a few episodes back to you when you're using this same justification to get your Bronco? You're like, I don't want anything fast. This needs to be an all around utility vehicle.
Dude, I go back and forth. This has like been my like disease, my addiction, my entire life. It's just cars. They like always get me messed up. And,
well, you're amongst
that's
friends
the thing
here.
Right now. So like this Bronco, like I started doing so much research on it. 351 Windsors are great engines. They can do so much. There's a lot of aftermarket support for them. But the whole speed density system in this, and the electronic system, and then if you try to get rid of that and go with like a carbureted setup instead of the speed density and fuel injection, then you have to get like a standalone transmission controller to still control the transmission. And then if you want to keep all that, you have to get like standalone computers just to tune that, because otherwise you're just limited.
All it takes is money, Brandon.
it takes so much money, more than I like bought the damn thing for, just to get 300 horsepower out of a decently sized engine. So that's one of the things that's like messing with me right now. And then
I think the answer has been here all along. You just throw BBC in it, buddy. If we stop the episode now, that's what I would write in the show notes is don't even bother listening. You need a BBC, and that's all there is to it.
One of the other things I've done is when I go get something, I just end up working on it. I think I like the idea of wrenching and doing stuff sometimes, and then I just don't actually get to enjoy the car. I think I just want something that's legitimately fun to drive and just drive it, enjoy it, maybe do a little bit of stuff to it just to make it kind of cool. But I'm not racing anymore. I'm not. They shut the local drag strip down. I'm not going to go drive an hour away all the time to go race. I'm definitely not going to street race anymore. I learned that lesson the hard way. And I live kind of small town Texas, so I can do some back road pulls and stuff like that. But otherwise, I got to take it easy now.
We'll see once I pull up with my Texas Speed thumper cam and uncork tethers. My
dad did pull up in that Corvette the other day. He tossed me the keys, and I kind of went and lit it up. But golly, I've driven so many fast cars now. That C5 felt so slow to me.
Well, bone stock, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I mean, Cletus just got rid of his C8 because he's like, it's too slow. You can't do enough to it right now. Like it's by far the slowest.
That to fund something else.
Yeah, well, he's using the money to get his bleachers, but I'm sure if he could make it as fast as everything else, he wouldn't have. That's what he said in the video, at least. Who knows? But I mean, he also made a small profit on it, so good for him.
Yeah, jeez, they're pretty solid. They're actually everywhere now. I'm seeing them all over the place in like the more wealthy areas of DFW here. Yeah,
I've seen a few around here. I don't know, man. I still think the C7 is it's more Corvette to me. Like, I don't think Corvette when I see the new one.
I think C7 is the first thing that strayed away from Corvette. They got rid of everything that was the Corvette, especially the rear taillights. That was like tried and true for decades, and they strayed away from it, and I haven't forgiven them yet.
That's true. That's fair. I didn't think about it like that. I'm just recently like opening my heart to Chevrolet, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not super precious about it.
I hated them for a while, but at the end of the day, when it comes to just making power, they kind of got it on lockdown. At least they just have enough aftermarket support. I guess there's enough people that just like Chevrolet, so the aftermarket supports it so much that you get good stuff for the Chevys.
Yeah, hopefully Ford's going to catch up with the 7.3 and the Coyote. Coyote seems to be making leaps and bounds, so it's good news.
Yeah, well, I think I'm still a little bit worried about the 7.3. So there's a lot of hype for it. A lot of people are real curious about it. The trucks are selling, but like the 6.2 gas truck, a gas engine they put in the F250s, F350s, they got no aftermarket support because it just lived for a short time in the Raptors and F-150s, and then it's just a work engine after that.
Right.
So I'm wondering if the 7.3 is going to see any of that, because you don't really get that heavy aftermarket support unless an engine makes its way into a sports car. Like,
right.
If the 5.0 only was in the F-150, it would have some support because it's one of the best selling pickup trucks, but it wouldn't have the support that it has now. Without the Mustang. Same with the LSs. It wouldn't have what it has without the Camaro or even the Corvette.
That's true. I've seen a few guys in that Facebook group that have done some aftermarket stuff on it and seen one guy put a Whipple on it and some E85. He was making like 800 horse, I think.
On the 7.3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've already seen some. I watched a pretty long video of an engine builder that actually, I guess, custom made some parts for it, and I guess, put it on engine dyno. And it was, I don't remember the numbers, but it was impressive. It's a very impressive engine. It's very capable, but that just goes back to what we originally were talking about on this displacement, man. It's with 7.3, what does that come out to? Around
that's like a 427, 430, something like that.
I think 430, 440 cubic inch range, somewhere around there.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's plenty of displacement, especially with modern technology and superior flowing cylinder heads, good compression and all that. I mean, it's just going to make power. It's going to be one of those engines, in my opinion, and we'll see what happens. Only time will tell, but it's going to be one of those engines you can stuff a cam, a bigger cam in there, and it's just going to make really good power with a basic
445 cubic inches. Sorry.
445. Yeah. Yep.
So that's damn near a big block numbers.
Okay, so that's another thing I keep running into. You're on the 7.3 page. I'm on there trolling all the time.
Oh yeah.
You know, these guys.
Yes, you are.
Everybody's like, oh, I'm so glad. Like, Ford finally has another big block, or like they go buy the new 7.3. Got me a big block, whatever. I keep seeing it on there. I was like, okay, listen, guys, I'm putting it out here in public now on Chris Talks Cars. It is not a big block. The 7.3 is actually one of the smallest engines Ford's produced in a long time. Like dimensions wise, it's smaller than the 4.7, or I'm sorry, the 4.6. It's a small engine. It's
I didn't know that. That's
size.
crazy.
You know, it's little. That's why everybody's excited about it, because it's why you don't see a lot of Coyotes in Fox bodies, because it's only 5 liters, but it's a big engine because it's got these massive cylinder heads. So
that's
it's super
true.
wide and it fits
That's true. Those freaking cylinder heads are obtrusive.
They're huge. Yeah, they're really big.
I don't know.
That's the same thing that happened with those 4.6s, the 5.4s Ford put out a long time ago. This 7.3, it's got good displacement, but it is not a big engine. And that's why everybody's excited about it, because they're going to be able to stuff it into Mustangs and anything, really. I mean, it has the potential. It has the potential. It has the right design. It has just a good old push rod engine to really be in anything that it wants to be in. I mean, I wish Ford would be like, all right, we're going to have a special edition and just stuff it in some Raptors or some F-150s or maybe a Mustang, or do something with it. I mean, it's a cool enough engine that I want it.
Ooh.
I'm not a big fan of the overhead cam engines, honestly, because I've never worked on them, so they're kind of foreign to me.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, because Hennessy, they do those Raptor swaps. I wonder if they'd start doing 7.3s into Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not.
That would be sweet.
I think
because they're putting whippled Coyotes in them now.
Yeah, no, there's a shop here. I can't remember what it's called. They put these wide bodies. Honestly, I think they look stupid as hell. But and then they seem to have the engines speed shop. They like almost exclusively do F-150s and Raptors, and they make them crazy looking.
Something else I thought about was buying a short bed single cab 5-liter F-150. Make a racetrack.
Man, I would love that. Even a old Silverado with like a 5.3 in it or something like that. I would love to have something like that. It'd be a lot of fun. I mean, it's got utility, plus it's they can be legitimately fast because they're not terribly heavy and they got the right engines in them.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. But like you're saying with the Raptor, with the 7.3, and the 5.3 is pretty tough to beat with that instant low end torque, and it's got 2 turbos on it. So I mean, that's gonna be really tough to beat. But yeah, if they can figure out how to really get easy power out of these, I think it's definitely going to be a strong aftermarket support for it. But so like I said, I'm still worried, because if they only offer it in an F-250 and just offer some crate engines on the side, I think there's going to be a lack of aftermarket support for it, just like they did with the 6.2. But time will tell. I think this is a better engine, so it definitely will do better anyways.
Hopefully. It sucked to see it like the Voodoo that seems doomed to die in the GT350, because it's pretty great engine.
Yeah, that's weird. So actually, we were just talking about the new Z06. I don't know if it's actually been officially released yet. We've just seen some like Car and Driver reports on it, but it's supposed to be a 5.5 dual overhead cam engine, which is crazy because we actually haven't seen one of those since the 90s and the old ZR1, which was made by Lotus. Lotus actually made an engine for the ZR1 back in the 90s. Now we're back in the dual overhead cam thing. So I'm worried it's going to just be like a one-off engine that nobody's going to really support too much, because if there's not a ton of them out there, aftermarket companies can't make a lot of money on it.
Right.
But maybe they're going to go to that. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's easier to do aftermarket stuff now too, because like 3D scans, and you can model stuff and CNC machine parts so much easier than you could back in the day. You know what I mean? There's not the huge barrier to entry to research and development.
Yeah, custom ground cams and stuff now are pretty easy to come by with shops, especially out here in DFW. And then, CNC porting, Kyle, there's some like mom and pop shops around here that do CNC porting now. So
right.
Definitely they're living in a different age, trying to make these oil burners survive over this electric stuff coming up.
the oncoming siege of electric. But I'm hoping the hybrid stuff takes off, because that's really the perfect mixture of it. And you've got your supercars and your Teslas that are 0 to 60 in damn near sub 2 seconds.
I really got a little butthurt the other day. I looked up, just Googled it. I said, what's the fastest car up Pikes Peak? It's a freaking electric car, man.
Really? Is it a Tesla or is it some one-off thing?
It's not a one-off. I don't remember the brand. You can Google it real quick, but it's it's a known brand. But
electric engines don't give a shit about altitude.
Yeah.
So they just ran that again. Did you see that old GMC diesel they ran up it?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, it was super dope, man. It was a Volkswagen, though, you said, the fastest one?
Yeah, the Volkswagen. I'm not even going to try to say that name. And it's like legit. It's like a lot faster than whatever number 2 is.
Dang.
Like second place. It did it. Yeah. It did it under 7 seconds. Under eight minutes.
Dang. I drove up there once when I was staying in Denver, and I was behind these people in it. So there's this car that was going just literally as slower than idle. It was so slow that these guys in motorcycles that were in front of me kept having to stop because they couldn't move forward fast enough to stay up, and they're just smoking their clutches. And I got altitude sickness when I got to the top. So,
oh, really?
Good times.
I think I'd definitely like to go there. I was actually talking to another friend about heading out there. You remember Matthew Norton from Navy? Oh, yeah. He actually went to one of those races. He said it was really cool.
Yeah, they do a half-mile race there too. Airstrip attack.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely on my list. I'd like to go do that one day. It's in Colorado, isn't it?
Colorado Springs, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully, we're going to be heading there sometime this year, just on a little road trip vacation.
Denver's beautiful. Breckenridge, which is just outside Denver, it's like this resort town. It's awesome, man. It's like the whole city is owned by the resort company. So it's like a curated Christmas town, and there's breweries and restaurants, and it's awesome. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'll probably hit you up and find the right areas to go to.
Heck yeah.
When we get there.
Well, I'll be out your way early next year. So hopefully sooner. I've been looking at jobs out there. Just head out there a little earlier, maybe.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I hate that this doesn't have a recorder on it. I have no idea how long this episode was, but I think it's a good place to stop. I am at Chris Talks Cars on Instagram. We are on YouTube at Cartoon Channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review, all those things. And we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.